Rain fell in sheets, drumming on the roof of the tiny cabin like a warning drumbeat. Mia pressed her back against the cold wooden wall, shivering, soaked, and heart-hammering. She had been running for what felt like hours through the dense forest, her only thought survival, until the roar cut through the storm. Not thunder, not an animal, but a sound that shook the ground beneath her feet. And then he appeared. A figure stepped into the clearing, drenched in rain, tall and broad, his movements silent but commanding. Golden eyes, sharp and wild, met hers. For a moment, Mia felt her breath catch. The man was impossibly strong, yet there was something in his presence that felt almost primal, as if he were more wolf than human. Her instincts screamed to flee, yet something about the intensity of his gaze rooted her to the spot. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, carrying both warning and authority. "It's dangerous." I didn't know," Mia stammered, teeth chattering. The forest was alive with sounds she couldn't name, branches snapping, shadows moving, the subtle growl of unseen predators. Every fiber of her being urged her to run, but the man's presence, his eyes, held her there, frozen, captivated, and terrified. He took a step closer, rain dripping from his dark hair. "You are mine," he said abruptly, almost as if tasting the words. "You have always been mine." Mia blinked, disbelief warring with the strange recognition she felt deep in her chest. What are you saying?" she whispered, voice barely audible over the storm. The man's gaze softened, yet still held an unshakable intensity. "You are my mate. Fate has chosen you, even if you do not understand, even if you deny it." Her mind reeled. Mate? Fate? She had always thought herself ordinary, a human woman caught in the mundanity of the world. Until now. Now, everything she had known about herself, about life, about danger, was suddenly irrelevant. Her heart pounded not just from fear, but from something else. Something impossible to ignore. Before she could respond, a rustle in the trees alerted them to movement. Shadows shifted, figures emerging, eyes glinting with malice. The Alpha, this impossible man who called her mate, shifted subtly, his body tensing, the air around him charged with something feral, protective, unstoppable. "Run," he ordered, voice commanding, not just with words but with instinct, with authority. "Stay behind me." Mia's pulse surged, terror and exhilaration mingling as the first of the attackers lunged from the shadows. Instinct took over. She ran, toward him, not away, feeling a pull, magnetic and undeniable, as if every step toward him confirmed the truth she could not yet fully understand. The night would not end quietly. The forest had revealed its secrets, and she had stepped into a world that would demand everything from her: courage, trust, and a love that defied reason. She thought she was human, until the Alpha called her his mate. The storm had eased, leaving the forest slick with rain and the smell of wet earth heavy in the air. Mia crouched behind a fallen log, trying to calm her racing heart. Every instinct screamed that she should flee, yet every fiber of her being seemed drawn to him. The Alpha who had claimed her as his mate without explanation, whose presence lingered in her mind even as she fought to make sense of it all. A sudden splash nearby made her freeze. She turned to see him emerging from the shadows, wolf-like grace in his movements, but still unmistakably human. His golden eyes scanned the forest, alert, calculating. And then, inexplicably, they landed on her. "Mia," he said, voice low but carrying an undeniable warmth now. "You can't keep hiding. Not from me, not from yourself." She shook her head, trying to retreat further, but her body refused to obey. "I don't even know you," she whispered, voice trembling. I'm not ready for this. He stepped closer, careful, deliberate, his gaze unwavering. You don't need to understand right now. You just need to trust that I will protect you, that I won't let anything happen to you. The forest seemed to hold its breath. For the first time, Mia saw the vulnerability behind the alpha's fierce exterior, the weight he carried, the burden of leadership, and something more intimate, more personal, that he didn't reveal lightly. There was pain there, unspoken, yet it was tempered by an undeniable kindness, a willingness to shield her even when it meant exposing himself to danger. I'm not human, he said suddenly, almost as if reading her thoughts. Not entirely. And neither is your fate. You've been brought into this world, Mia, whether you believe it or not. And I won't let you face it alone. Her heart skipped a beat. Every word he spoke carried power, authority, and an unshakable truth. She wanted to resist, to retreat back into the safety of ignorance, but the pull toward him was magnetic, irresistible. It wasn't just his claim of her as a mate. It was the undeniable connection she felt in her chest, a tug that seemed to reach into her very soul. Before she could speak, a movement in the underbrush caught their attention. A small, injured wolf, or was it a shifter, emerged, limping, its fur matted with blood and rain. Without hesitation, Mia stepped forward, drawn by compassion and instinct. The alpha's hand caught her arm just in time. Careful, he warned, tension in his posture. It could be dangerous. But Mia shook her head, ignoring the fear. I can help it, she said softly. And in that moment, she realized something. She had been running from danger for so long, but for the first time she wanted to step forward into it, not away. The alpha watched her, eyes narrowed, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. You are braver than you know, he said, and that is what makes you mine. Not fear, not hesitation, but courage. Mia's breath hitched. She didn't understand everything, the world he came from, the pack, the bond they shared, but she understood that he believed in her. And in believing, she found a small spark of her own strength. The wolf, or shifter, whined softly, limping closer, and Mia knelt, her hands gentle on its fur. The alpha remained behind her, protective yet silent, watching, the bond between them taut, magnetic, alive. And for the first time since the forest chase began, Mia didn't feel fear. She felt connection, purpose, and the undeniable pull of something larger than herself, something that tied her to the alpha in ways she couldn't yet name. Good, he said finally, his voice low, almost a growl of satisfaction. You are learning, Mia. And soon, you will understand everything. But for now, just know this. I am here, always. She looked up at him, her chest swelling with emotion, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe. The forest, the storm, the unknown dangers, they all faded into the background. What mattered was him, the alpha who claimed her, the connection she could not deny, and the strange, impossible future that awaited them both. And in that moment, Mia realized something terrifying, exhilarating, and undeniable. Her life would never be ordinary again. The days that followed the storm were strange, almost surreal. Mia found herself in a world that seemed familiar, yet utterly foreign. The forest, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now felt alive with energy she couldn't explain. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, seemed charged with intention, as if the very woods were watching, waiting, guiding her. And at the center of it all was him. Rail, the alpha, golden-eyed and magnetic, whose presence stirred something deep in her chest she hadn't known existed. But alongside the wonder, there was unease, Small things kept her on edge. The way Rael could appear silently beside her no matter how far she thought she'd run. The way his senses seemed sharper than any human's. The faint glow in his eyes when the moonlight struck them just right. One night, as she tried to relax by the fire, she noticed his reflection in the water outside their cabin. Subtle, almost imperceptible. But the tips of his ears seemed pointed, elongated, sharper than normal. She blinked and shook her head, chiding herself. I'm imagining things. There's no way. Yet the unease persisted, an insistent whisper in the back of her mind that refused to be silenced. Rael, she asked one evening, sitting by the fire with her knees drawn to her chest. How is it that you always know where to find me? How do you move so silently? He looked up from sharpening a knife, golden eyes meeting hers with a guarded intensity. I am attuned to the forest, to the life within it. To you, he said simply, his voice carrying an almost imperceptible growl of authority. Mia frowned, curiosity and suspicion prickling at the edges of her thoughts. Attuned? That sounds impossible. He hesitated, studying her, and for a brief moment, she saw a flicker of something human behind the alpha's mask of strength. Some things are beyond explanation, he said finally, returning to his task. You will learn, in time, that the world is larger and stranger than you have ever imagined. Her mind spun. Stranger? Larger? She had always thought her life was ordinary, mundane even. But this man, this forest, this inexplicable pull she felt toward him, suggested otherwise. Curiosity gnawed at her relentlessly. She began noticing patterns, subtle clues. The way his hearing seemed unnaturally acute. The way he could sense changes in the wind and react before anything occurred. The faint scent of wild musk that clung to him even after the rain. And then there were the dreams, vivid, unsettling visions of a wolf with golden eyes standing guard over her, guiding her through dangers she hadn't yet encountered. She woke from them trembling, unsure if they were memories or premonitions, yet certain they were connected to him. One evening, as the moon rose full and luminous over the treetops, Mia confronted him. Rael, there's something you're not telling me. I can feel it. Something about you. About us. He paused, expression unreadable, muscles tensing as though weighing the decision to speak. Finally, he stood and approached her, the firelight glinting off his damp hair, golden eyes holding hers captive. You are right, he admitted quietly, voice low and deliberate. I am not fully human, Mia. I am a shifter, a protector of this forest and its pack. And you are bound to me in a way that cannot be broken, not by time, not by fear. Her breath caught. The pieces of the puzzle began to click into place. The unexplainable pull, the shared dreams, the bond she had felt stirring in her chest since the first moment he had claimed her as his mate. It was all true. And yet, fear mingled with awe, uncertainty with fascination. So, this bond, she whispered, the connection you speak of, it's real? His gaze softened, and for the first time, he allowed vulnerability to flicker across his features. It is real, he said, and it is stronger than either of us can yet understand. You are mine, not by threat or claim, but by destiny, by choice, by a connection that runs deeper than blood, deeper than magic, deeper than time itself. Mia's heart raced. Fear, curiosity, and longing collided within her. The world she had known, the one that was ordinary, safe, and human, had vanished. And in its place stood something vast, primal, and intoxicating. The alpha, the bond, the forest, and the undeniable pull of destiny that was hers to explore. She realized then that suspicion had been the doorway to understanding. and understanding, once glimpsed, could not be ignored. The forest had settled into a calm rhythm after the storm, though the memory of danger still lingered in Mia's veins like a faint hum. Each day with Rael was a mixture of wonder, unease, and curiosity. She had glimpsed his otherworldly nature, felt the magnetic pull of their bond, and yet, something kept her cautious. Trust was not given easily, especially after the betrayals she had endured in her past. But Rael moved with a patience and intensity that demanded attention, even if she wasn't ready to surrender completely. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in muted shades of pink and violet, Mia found herself by the edge of a stream, the water reflecting the soft colors. Rael appeared silently behind her, as always, but this time he said nothing. He simply knelt a few feet away, watching her, and waited. "Why do you watch me like that?" she asked, her voice tentative, almost teasing, though a tremor betrayed her nerves. "Because you are learning," he said softly, voice low but steady. "And because I need you to see that you are not alone. You are not a pawn in the pack. You are... you." Mia hesitated, then took a deep breath, letting the words sink in. The weight of loneliness, of fear, of exile that she had carried for so long began to ease, if only slightly. "It's hard," she admitted, "to trust, to believe that something, can care about me the way you say." Rael moved closer, careful, deliberate, his eyes never leaving hers. "I know," he murmured. "I've seen what has been done to you. I've seen the scars you hide, the fear you try to bury. And I will not let anyone hurt you, not now, not ever. That is my promise. Not because it is my duty as Alpha, but because... you are mine." His words stirred something deep inside her, a mixture of relief, fear, and longing. For so long she had felt invisible, unworthy, and untethered. Now, standing in the forest with the Alpha who had claimed her as his mate, she realized that someone could see her, truly see her, and still care. She began, unsure how to continue. "I've never had anyone who didn't judge me, who didn't expect me to be perfect or invisible." He reached out then, hand hovering near hers, and finally, gently, their fingers brushed. Electricity ran through her at the touch, a physical manifestation of the bond they shared, of the pull destiny had woven between them. "You don't have to be perfect," he said. "You only have to be yourself. And that is more than enough." For the first time in a long while, Mia allowed herself to breathe, to lean into the warmth of his presence, and to let vulnerability creep in. She shared fragments of her past, the betrayals, the broken friendships, the moments she had felt utterly alone. And Rael listened, without judgment, without interruption, letting her pour herself out in the quiet sanctuary of the forest. "You carry a lot," he said finally, voice soft, almost a whisper, yet it carried weight. "But that strength, that resilience, it's why you survived, why you are here, why I cannot let you go." Mia's heart tightened. It wasn't just protection he offered. It was understanding, respect, and the gentle insistence that she was worthy of care and love. For a human who had spent so long hiding from the world, this was revolutionary. I don't know if I can ever repay you," she admitted, voice trembling. He smiled faintly, a mixture of warmth and pride. "You don't need to. Just trust me. Trust us. That is enough." And in that twilight moment, beside the stream and under the soft glow of fading light, Mia began to understand. Trust wasn't given freely, but it could grow, nurtured by patience, care, and shared vulnerability. And with Rael, she felt the first fragile stirrings of that trust taking root. A trust that would soon blossom into something far more powerful, unbreakable, and impossible to ignore. The forest around them seemed to settle as well, the breeze gentle, the night quiet, as if acknowledging the unspoken bond forming between human and alpha, between two souls destined to face the world together. And as Mia leaned slightly closer to him, fingers still intertwined, she realized that perhaps, just perhaps, this was the first step toward finding not only safety, but a home she had never known she could have. The forest had settled into a deceptive calm, but the danger was far from over. Mia had begun to trust Rael, to believe in the bond they shared, yet every instinct whispered that peace was fragile. She could feel it in the tension of the trees, in the way the wind shifted suddenly, carrying scents she couldn't name. Danger was approaching, and it had claws. It began with subtle signs, the faint rustle of leaves that didn't belong to the wind, shadows that seemed to linger longer than they should, and a deep, guttural growl that echoed through the forest one moonless night. Mia's heart thudded in her chest, not from fear alone, but from the realization that the world she had been pulled into was infinitely more dangerous than she had imagined. Rael's presence was immediate, a protective shadow that materialized at her side before she could fully comprehend the threat. "Stay close," he warned, golden eyes scanning the darkness. His body was coiled, tense, ready to strike. "They're here." "Who?" she whispered, clutching his arm instinctively. "Rogue shifters," he said, voice low, filled with controlled fury. "They've been hunting our territory, testing our strength. And now, they've found us." Mia's stomach twisted. She had imagined dangers in fairy tales and movies, but nothing had prepared her for this. The real, primal teeth and claws, danger of creatures like Rael, driven by instincts she could barely understand. And yet, there was a strange thrill, a pulse of adrenaline that ran through her, tying her fear to fascination. The first attack came swiftly. Shadowy figures emerged from the trees, faster than human eyes could track, snarling and baring fangs. Rael moved like liquid, a blur of precision and power, intercepting the first of the intruders with a feral roar. Mia's heart raced, and though terror gripped her, she refused to hide. She couldn't. She had to act, to survive, and to stand by him. Instinct took over. She remembered the wolf from before, the way she had stepped forward to help, and somehow, that memory gave her courage. "Rael!" she shouted, grabbing a heavy branch from the ground. "I can fight too!" He glanced at her, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, then nodded. "Careful. Focus, not fear. Use the forest. Its shadows, its terrain. Let it guide you." The rogue shifters lunged again, and Mia moved with a combination of fear and instinct, striking where she could, ducking where necessary, feeling the strange rhythm of battle align with her heartbeat. Every movement was a test, a challenge, but also a confirmation. She was not helpless. She was learning, adapting, and somehow she was alive. Rael fought beside her, a guardian, a partner, a force that inspired her courage. He was fierce, but careful, guiding her without coddling, protecting her while letting her prove her strength. And in those moments, the bond between them deepened. No longer just a magical pull, but a shared survival. A trust forged in the heat of danger. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the last of the intruders fled, howls echoing through the night. Mia sank to the ground, breathless, trembling from fear and adrenaline, yet exhilarated by the proof that she could endure, that she could fight, and that she could face these dangers with Rael by her side. Rael knelt beside her, hands brushing her hair from her soaked face, eyes intense, yet soft. "You were incredible," he murmured, "more than I ever expected. You are stronger than you know, Mia. Stronger than any of them could have imagined." Mia shook, not just from exhaustion, but from the rush of emotion. Pride, fear, exhilaration, and something more. Something dangerous and beautiful stirring in her chest. I didn't know I could do that, she admitted, voice barely audible. He smiled faintly, almost tenderly, brushing her cheek. You can do anything. And you will. With me. Always. For the first time, Mia realized that danger and trust, fear and love, could coexist. That survival didn't mean isolation. That strength could emerge from vulnerability. And as she leaned into him, the forest around them alive with the echoes of battle and the quiet promise of dawn, she understood. She was no longer just human. She was a part of something larger, a world ruled by instincts, bonds, and destiny, and she was ready to claim her place in it. The moon hung low and luminous over the forest, casting silver light through the canopy. Mia followed Rael silently, her pulse quickening with every step. The recent attack by the rogue shifters had left a raw, electric tension between them. One she didn't fully understand, yet couldn't ignore. She had fought, survived, and even felt a strange thrill in the danger, but she still sensed there were truths Rael hadn't shared. Secrets buried deeper than the forest floor. Finally, they reached a secluded clearing where the air shimmered faintly, as if charged with something beyond the natural world. Rael stopped at the center and turned to her, eyes glowing golden in the moonlight. You deserve to know the truth, he said, voice steady but heavy with unspoken weight. Mia's stomach tightened. She had suspected much. His heightened senses, the predatory grace, the mysterious bond, but she was unprepared for what she was about to witness. I'm ready, she whispered, though her voice trembled. Rael exhaled, a low, rumbling sound, and the air seemed to shift around him. His form blurred, limbs elongating, muscles rippling unnaturally beneath skin that seemed to shimmer in the silver light. Fur sprouted across his body in a fluid, mesmerizing transformation. Mia stumbled back, eyes wide, heart pounding. Before her stood not a man, but a wolf, massive, golden-eyed, and breathtaking in his feral majesty. You're a wolf? She whispered, disbelief battling awe. He stepped closer, powerful paws silent on the soft forest floor, and his eyes softened into a familiar, almost tender gaze. A shifter, he corrected gently. I am both human and wolf, bound by blood, by destiny, by the pack. And you are part of this now. Her mind spun. Me? How? I'm human. I don't belong here. He lowered his massive head, gaze locking with hers, and the bond pulsed between them, a tangible, magnetic force that left her breathless. You are my mate, he said firmly. Fate has entwined us, Mia. This is not a choice, though you may struggle to believe it, but a truth written in blood and soul. You are connected to me, to this forest, to the pack, in ways that transcend your human understanding. Tears pricked at her eyes. The revelation was overwhelming, terrifying, and yet, it made a strange, undeniable sense. From the first moment he had claimed her, she had felt it. The pull, the recognition, the bond that neither time nor reason could erase. But why me? She asked, voice barely audible. Why would fate choose someone like me? Rael shifted back toward his human form, kneeling to meet her at eye level. Because you are brave, resilient, and strong in ways even you do not see, he said. You survived exile, betrayal, and fear. You have a courage that cannot be broken. And courage is what makes you worthy of this bond, of me, of the pack. Mia swallowed hard, struggling to process the enormity of his words. Her life, once ordinary and painfully human, had shifted irrevocably. She was now entwined with the supernatural, bound to an alpha, a pack, and a destiny she had never imagined. The bond pulsed again, faint at first, then stronger, wrapping around her heart and mind. Memories of the storm, of the wolf she had helped, of every moment she had felt inexplicably drawn to Rael, surged within her. It was all connected, every instinct and every pull leading her to this truth. Rael reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek gently. "You may feel fear, confusion, or even anger," he said softly. "But know this, I will not leave you. I will not let you face this world alone. Together we will navigate the pack, the dangers, the magic, and we will face whatever comes with our bond as our strength." Mia's chest tightened, tears spilling freely now. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted. He smiled faintly, the wolfish ferocity in his eyes tempered by warmth and reverence. "You can. You already are. And you will never be alone again." The forest around them seemed to settle, as if acknowledging the truth, the bond, and the future that now lay before them. Mia's heart beat in rhythm with the magical pulse between them, a tide of fear, awe, and budding love washing over her. The secret was unveiled, the truth undeniable, and yet, in its revelation, she felt not only fear, but hope. Hope for a future entwined with the Alpha, the pack, and the destiny that awaited her. And as the moonlight bathed them both in its silver glow, Mia understood, fully and irrevocably. Her life had been changed forever, and there was no turning back. The night air was heavy with tension, the forest surrounding them almost unnaturally silent. Since the revelation of Rael's true nature, Mia had been both awed and fearful, struggling to reconcile the human she knew with the shifter he had become. She had begun to trust him, to feel the bond pulse between them, yet that trust now wavered. Not because of doubt in him, but because of the dangerous world he inhabited, and the secrets that could no longer remain hidden. It began subtly, with Rael growing distant, his eyes clouded with worry he refused to share. He would disappear for hours, returning late with mud-streaked clothing and eyes darker than the forest at midnight. "I have to handle something," he would murmur, voice tight, avoiding her gaze. And though Mia wanted to trust him, the uncertainty gnawed at her, stirring shadows of her old fears, the betrayals that had once shattered her so completely. Then the true test arrived in the form of the rival pack, the same rogues who had attacked them earlier. Word came that they were mobilizing, planning a strike not just on Rael, but on anyone connected to him. The pack's council demanded a strategy, a plan that required Rael to leave Mia vulnerable, to ensure the safety of his people above all else. "I can't let them get to you," Rael said one evening, his voice trembling with a rare vulnerability. "But to protect the pack, I may have to let you face them alone." Mia's chest tightened, fear and hurt clashing violently. "Alone? After everything we've been through? After everything you've taught me?" His jaw clenched. "I won't abandon you, but I cannot risk the pack's lives. This is the only way." She felt the familiar pull of anger, the sting of betrayal, but beneath it all, a deeper understanding. Rael's choice was not cruelty. It was sacrifice, a decision born from responsibility, love, and the unbearable weight of leadership. And yet, the pain it caused her was undeniable. I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, voice breaking. "I thought trust meant we faced everything together. I thought—" "You will never face it alone," he interrupted gently, stepping closer. "Even if I cannot be by your side physically, my bond with you will guide you. My strength will flow through you. You are stronger than you know, Mia. And this is proof of the trust I place in you, not a betrayal." The night stretched on, each moment charged with silent fear, unspoken longing. and the weight of decisions neither wanted to make. When the attack finally came, Mia was alone. Or so it seemed. Shadows flitted through the trees, feral eyes glowing in the dark. Her heart raced, adrenaline and terror mingling, but instinct and Rael's teachings guided her movements. Every step, every breath, every flicker of awareness reminded her that the bond between them was not bound by distance, and that his presence, though invisible, was still her shield. When the final rogue lunged, teeth bared, Mia was ready. She ducked, twisted, and struck with precision born of fear and newfound courage. And then, a golden blur appeared beside her, a low growl resonating in the air. Rael had returned, a tempest of strength and fury, eliminating the threat with merciless efficiency. As the forest fell silent once more, Mia collapsed to the ground, shaking, exhausted, and yet alive. Rael knelt beside her, eyes softening as he brushed damp hair from her face. "See?" he murmured. "We survived. Together. Even when it seemed impossible." Tears blurred her vision, a mixture of relief, lingering fear, and a deeper, more potent emotion she could no longer deny. "You scared me," she whispered, voice trembling. "I know," he admitted, voice low, almost a growl of regret. "And I am sorry. I would never willingly hurt you, Mia. But sometimes, sacrifice is the only way to protect those we love. Trust me. Always." She nodded, chest heaving, and for the first time, truly understood. Love, trust, and loyalty were not just words. They were choices, sometimes painful, sometimes terrifying, yet always binding. And in that moment, Mia realized that despite the fear, despite the danger, despite the shadows of betrayal that had once defined her life, she was ready to face anything with him. The forest around them seemed to exhale, the threat vanquished, the night calm once more. And as Rael pulled her into his embrace, warm and grounding, she felt the bond between them pulse stronger than ever, tested, tempered, and unbreakable. She had faced betrayal, or at least the shadow of it, and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the love that destiny had written for them both. The forest was alive with tension, the kind that raised the hairs on the back of the neck and tightened the chest. Mia had grown stronger in recent weeks, her confidence shaped by trust, training, and the bond that tethered her to Rael. Yet nothing could have prepared her for what came next, a threat more sudden, more primal, and more personal than any she had faced before. A scream tore through the trees, sharp and piercing, echoing like a jagged blade in the night. Instinct propelled her forward, feet pounding against the forest floor, heart hammering. "Rael!" she shouted, fear and adrenaline colliding in her voice. He appeared in a blur, golden eyes alight with fury and determination. "Stay close," he commanded, voice low but fierce. There was no hesitation, no thought beyond protection, and Mia felt the familiar pulse of the bond surge between them, grounding her even as panic threatened to overwhelm. The danger revealed itself in the form of a massive predator, larger than any wolf, eyes glowing red with unnatural hunger, muscles rippling beneath fur dark as midnight. It moved with terrifying speed, teeth bared, intent clear. Mia froze for a moment, caught between fear and awe, but Rael's hand on her arm steadied her. "Trust me," he said simply, and she did, surrendering to the bond and the knowledge that he would not let her fall. The fight was a whirlwind of movement, instinct, and raw power. Rael's form shifted fluidly between human and wolf, a storm of claws and teeth striking with precision. Mia dodged, struck, and ran, her training and intuition guiding her through the chaos. And then, suddenly, the predator lunged toward her, faster than she could react. A searing pain shot through her side, and she cried out, stumbling. Time seemed to stretch, heart and mind focused on the looming threat, when a blur of gold and shadow slammed into the creature, teeth and claws sinking deep. Rail. Always Rail. The predator roared in frustration and pain, retreating finally into the darkness, leaving Rail panting but victorious. Mia fell to her knees, trembling, tears spilling down her face. Rail was beside her instantly, hands gentle as they cradled her face, eyes scanning every inch for injury. "Mia, you're hurt," he whispered, voice raw with worry, concern, and something more. A vulnerability he rarely allowed himself to show. I'm okay," she said, voice shaky, though the bond between them pulsed like a drumbeat, fierce and undeniable. You saved me." He shook his head, brushing damp hair from her face. "No, you saved yourself. You fought. You trusted. And that trust, it saved both of us. But I swear, Mia, if anything ever hurts you, ever, I will move heaven and earth to protect you." For the first time, she truly saw him. Not just the alpha, not just the shifter, but the man who carried love, fear, and responsibility in equal measure. The raw honesty in his gaze, the unflinching devotion, cut through every layer of fear and doubt she had ever held. And in that moment, the walls she had built around her heart began to crumble. "I trust you," she whispered, barely audible. "I trust you. With everything." Rail's lips curved into a small, fierce smile, and he pressed his forehead against hers, the bond between them thrumming with energy, magic, and inevitability. "Then we are no longer just bound by fate," he said. "We are bound by choice, by love, by survival, and nothing will break that." The forest seemed to exhale around them, leaves rustling gently, moonlight bathing the clearing in silver. Fear had been transformed into triumph, danger into connection, and pain into intimacy. The bond between them was no longer a whisper in the dark. It was a roaring declaration, undeniable and unbreakable. Mia felt a warmth spread through her chest, a clarity she had never known. The fear, the isolation, the shadows of her past, they were all eclipsed by the love and trust that now enveloped her. And as she leaned into Rail, hands tangling in his hair, she realized something profound. No matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter what dangers the forest or the world might throw at them, they would face it together, as one. For the first time, Mia didn't just believe in Rail. She believed in them, in their bond, their love, and the destiny that had brought them together. And that belief, that trust, was stronger than any fear, sharper than any danger, and more enduring than any obstacle the world could place in their path. The dawn broke slowly over the forest, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. After the night's chaos, silence had settled, heavy but comforting, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Mia sat on the edge of the stream, the water reflecting the fragile light of morning, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to simply feel, without fear, without vigilance, without the weight of the past pressing on her chest. Rail approached silently, his form moving like a shadow gliding over the earth, and knelt beside her without a word. The intensity in his golden eyes was softened by the morning light, yet the bond between them thrummed with undeniable strength, a living pulse connecting heart to heart. "I never thought," Mia began, voice tentative, as though afraid to speak the truth aloud. "I never thought I could feel this, whole, safe, loved, not just by anyone, but by you." He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally, a connection so intimate it seemed as if the universe itself had conspired to bring them together. "Mia," he whispered, voice rough with emotion. "This, us. It was never about chance. It was fate, yes, but also choice. And I choose you, every single day. I choose you above the pack, above fear, above everything else. I cannot imagine my life without you. Her breath caught. The world around them faded, leaving only the two of them, bound by instinct, magic, and an unspoken promise. I choose you too, she said softly, tears threatening to fall. Even when it was terrifying, even when I didn't understand, even when everything was wrong, I was drawn to you. And now I know why. I know I belong with you. The words hung in the air like a delicate spell, fragile yet potent. Rael's expression softened further, his wolfish ferocity tempered by tenderness and awe. Slowly he leaned in, his forehead brushing against hers, golden eyes locked on hers as if searching for every unspoken thought, every hidden fear. "You are my mate, Mia," he murmured, voice low and reverent. "And not just because of the bond, not just because of fate, because I love you. I have loved you from the moment I knew you were mine, and I will love you until the end of my days. And I will protect you, cherish you, and never let you face the darkness alone." Mia's hands moved to rest on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the warmth beneath his skin, the undeniable truth of his words. "And I love you, Rael," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've never been sure of anything before, but I'm sure of this. Of us. Of you." The moment stretched, time itself seeming to pause, as they allowed themselves to embrace fully, to taste the release of fear, pain, and longing that had haunted them for so long. Lips met in a gentle, desperate kiss, soft at first, then deepening as the bond between them pulsed and thrummed, almost tangible in its intensity. It was a declaration, a promise, a surrender to the destiny that had led them here. The forest around them seemed to respond, the wind stirring softly, the leaves whispering in harmony with the rhythm of their hearts. For the first time, Mia felt truly seen, truly known, and utterly cherished. And Rael, powerful, fierce, yet tender, held her as though she were both his anchor and his home. In that embrace, everything shifted. Fear melted, danger receded, and the bond they shared became more than fate. It became life itself. The alpha and his mate, bound not just by blood and magic, but by love, trust, and the shared courage to face every shadow that dared cross their path. And as the morning sun illuminated their entwined forms, Mia realized that this was more than survival, more than destiny. It was the beginning of something enduring, something unbreakable, and something profoundly, beautifully their own. The forest had shifted into a tense stillness, the kind that seemed to press on the chest and sharpen every sound. Dawn had faded, leaving the twilight hours with an almost oppressive weight. Mia and Rael had been preparing for this moment for days, knowing that the rogue shifters would not retreat quietly, that the threat to the pack, and to them, was far from over. Rael's eyes glowed in the dim light, sharp and focused, his body taut like a coiled spring. Mia, beside him, felt the pull of the bond stronger than ever, a tangible current linking them, steadying her, and filling her with courage she hadn't known she possessed. "Are you ready?" he asked, voice low, carrying the weight of command and care. "I am," she replied, gripping his hand. "We face it together." They moved silently through the trees, senses heightened, every rustle of leaves or snap of a branch signaling potential danger. Then, as if on cue, shadows emerged, dozens of them, surrounding the clearing where they had chosen to confront the threat. The rogue shifters were larger, faster, and more vicious than before, eyes glowing red with malice. Their snarls echoed through the trees, a chorus of menace that raised every hair on Mia's arms. Rael stepped forward, chest forward, golden eyes blazing. "This ends tonight," he declared, voice carrying the authority of an alpha. "Back off, or face the consequences." The rogues laughed, a chilling sound that cut through the tension. And then, chaos erupted. The battle was unlike anything Mia had faced before. The rogues attacked with coordinated ferocity, but Rael and the pack countered with equal precision. Mia moved alongside him, instincts honed from training, adrenaline, and the bond that pulsed like a living thing. Every strike, every dodge, every movement was synced with Rael, as if their hearts beat in unison. Yet even as they fought, a larger threat emerged, the leader of the rogues, a massive shifter with eyes that burned with fury and a strength that rivaled Rael's own. He lunged at Rael with murderous intent, and for a terrifying moment, it seemed that the alpha might be overpowered. Mia's breath caught. Instinct screamed at her to hide, to flee, but the bond surged, pulling her forward, lending strength she hadn't realized she possessed. "Rael!" she shouted, and the call was more than sound. It was a tether, a lifeline, a reminder of their unbreakable connection. Rael's eyes met hers, and in that instant, the world narrowed to just the two of them. With a roar that shook the clearing, he transformed fully, powerful and feral, a golden tempest of claws and teeth. Mia, feeling the bond ignite, allowed herself to transform as well. Not fully, but partially, letting instinct and magic flow through her, a shared pulse of power. Together, they faced the rogue leader, moving as one, unstoppable, bound by love, trust, and destiny. The battle was intense, but the rogues, despite their cunning, could not withstand the unity and strength of the alpha and his mate. One by one they fell back, until the clearing was silent once more, broken only by the labored breathing of those who had fought. The rogue leader, defeated but alive, retreated with a final snarl, and the threat dissipated like mist in the morning sun. Rael shifted back to human form, chest heaving, golden eyes softening as he reached for Mia. "Are you hurt?" he asked, concern and relief warring in his gaze. Mia shook her head, tears streaming down her face, heart pounding. "No, not hurt," she whispered. "Stronger. Because of you. Because of us." He pulled her into his arms, holding her close, and for the first time, the weight of their world, their danger and their past seemed to lift. They had faced the ultimate test, the rogue pack, the threat to the alpha, and the fear that had haunted them both, and emerged victorious together. "I knew you were strong," Rael murmured against her hair, voice low and intimate. "But I never imagined this, us, together, like this." Mia pressed her face to his chest, letting the bond pulse through her, filling her with warmth, courage, and certainty. "We are meant to face it all together," she said softly, "no matter what comes next." And in the quiet aftermath, with the forest holding its breath around them, they stood side by side, unbroken, unshakable, bound by love, destiny, and the trials they had survived. Whatever challenges remained, they would face them, not as alpha and mate, or human and shifter, but as two halves of a single, unbreakable whole. The final challenge had tested everything, but it had only strengthened their bond, their trust, and the love that now defined them. And as the first rays of dawn filtered through the trees, Mia knew with absolute clarity they were ready for whatever the world, or fate, would throw their way. Together. Always. The forest had returned to a serene calm, the echoes of battle replaced by the soft whisper of leaves and the gentle rush of the nearby stream. The pack gathered around the clearing, their eyes bright with respect and quiet reverence. For the first time since her arrival, Mia felt truly accepted, not as an outsider, not as a human stumbling into a shifter world, but as Rael's mate, and as a part of something greater than herself. Rael stood beside her, tall and unwavering, yet softened by the warmth of the morning sun and the satisfaction of survival. His gaze met hers, and in that look, Mia saw a reflection of every trial, every moment of fear, every shared heartbeat that had brought them here. "You did it," he said softly, pride and love mingling in his voice. "We did it," she corrected, smiling through the tears that still clung to her lashes. "Together." The pack's elders nodded in approval, acknowledging her courage, her strength, and her place among them. There was no hesitation, no judgment, only acceptance, a rare and priceless gift. Mia felt a weight lift from her shoulders, the lingering fear of rejection replaced by belonging. Rael stepped closer, sliding an arm around her waist, grounding her in the comfort of his presence. "This is your home now," he said, voice low and steady. "Our bond is more than magic or destiny. It is trust, love, and life itself. We face the world together, always." Mia leaned into him, resting her head against his chest. She could feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the warmth of his body, and the unshakable pulse of their bond. "I'm ready," she whispered. "Ready for everything, for this life, for us." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then let's begin." In the days that followed, life settled into a new rhythm. Mia trained with the pack, learning their ways, their rules, and their lore. She discovered strengths she had never known, instincts that guided her as much as reason. And through it all, Rael was there, not just as alpha, but as partner, protector, and love. Their bond pulsed in every shared glance, every brush of hand against hand, every word spoken in quiet intimacy. The moon, once a harbinger of fear and transformation, now cast its silver glow as a symbol of their union. On nights when the full moon rose high, Mia felt the magic of the bond amplify, not as a warning, but as a celebration of what they had survived and what they had found in each other. They built a life together, one that honored both human and shifter worlds. The pack thrived, dangers were met with courage, and Mia found peace in the knowledge that she was no longer alone, no longer uncertain, and no longer a stranger in a world that had once terrified her. And through it all, Rael never let her forget the bond that had brought them here. "You are my mate," he would murmur in quiet moments, "and no matter what comes, you always will be." Mia smiled each time, feeling the pulse of love, destiny, and strength that connected them. She had once believed herself ordinary, vulnerable, and alone. Now she was extraordinary in ways she had never imagined, strengthened by trials, love, and the unbreakable bond of fate. The forest was no longer a place of fear, but of life, growth, and hope. And as Mia and Rael walked side by side, hands entwined, hearts beating as one, she knew that this was only the beginning. A life filled with challenges they would meet together, a love that would endure every test, and a future that was theirs to shape, strong, unyielding, and infinitely shared. The sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky in molten gold and rose, a quiet celebration of the day's end. Mia and Rael stood at the edge of the forest, side by side, hands intertwined, the bond between them steady and unbreakable. The air was warm with the promise of peace, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth. A reminder that they were home, truly home, at last. Mia breathed in slowly, letting the calm seep into her bones. She had walked a long path, one shadowed by fear, loss, and uncertainty. But every step had led her here, to this moment of quiet certainty. She glanced at Rael, golden eyes softened by the fading light, and felt the familiar pulse of the bond that had carried them through danger, doubt, and discovery. We did it, she whispered, a smile brushing her lips. We did, Rael murmured, voice low and reverent. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers, letting the rhythm of their hearts speak louder than words ever could. And this is only the beginning. For us, for the pack, for everything we've fought for. Mia's fingers traced the line of his jaw, memorizing the curve that had once seemed so distant and untouchable. I never imagined life could feel like this, she admitted softly. Safe, wanted, loved, and yet, it's better than I ever dreamed. Rael's lips curved in a rare, tender smile. You are my mate, Mia. Not just by fate, but by choice, by heart, by every bit of strength and love I have, and I will spend every day proving it to you. The forest around them seemed to sigh, leaves rustling in gentle approval, the shadows softened by the fading light, and the distant call of the pack echoing like a song of home. Life had been tested, threats had come, and fear had loomed, but it had all led them here, to a place of belonging, of trust, and of enduring love. Mia leaned into him, letting the warmth of his presence envelop her, and in that embrace, she understood fully that she was no longer alone. She was seen, cherished, and a part of something eternal, something that went beyond magic or destiny. Their bond was a living thing, fierce and tender, wild and enduring, carrying the promise of every sunrise, every moonlit night, and every heartbeat to come. Ready? Rael asked, a soft chuckle vibrating through his chest, as if the weight of their trials had only made the moment lighter, sweeter. Mia nodded, squeezing his hand. Always. Together they stepped forward, leaving behind the echoes of fear and the shadows of uncertainty. The forest welcomed them, the wind carrying whispers of strength and promise. And as the first stars began to glitter in the darkening sky, Mia knew one truth she would carry forever. They had faced the impossible, survived, and discovered a love that was unbreakable, unwavering, and wholly theirs. And in that moment, beneath the twilight canopy, the alpha and his mate found not just peace, but a home, within each other, within the pack, and within the destiny they had chosen to embrace together.